All right, so let's take a look at what we're going to do in this tutorial. You can see here that I have my mushroom model moving left and right, and they're really moving between these two patrol points, or they're also called waypoints. And then as my main character, Sally here, which is off camera, we definitely need a camera script, gets closer, you can see, it's probably better to look up here, that character starts to chase her when she's within range. I just have and then if I get away from this character, he runs back to those two waypoints. I think what I'm going to do first in this video is we'll get the logic where the little mushroom dude detects the character, and then what we'll do is we'll set up the waypoints in the next video. So this test scene I have is my test bed. It's where I kind of like test code. What we're going to do is just kind of set up level 01. So with this little square at the bottom here, I'm going to go ahead and drag this ground plane out like that. And if you recall, our character spawns in here, in this specific place. Now, under our CSS script here, we want to create under our CSS folder rather, under our scripts here, we want to go ahead and create another script. And actually, let's just make a folder called NPC. And this will be all the scripts that go towards dealing with any of our enemy characters, or dealing with any of our, just code that goes for any non-playable characters. All right, so the first script I need is a enemy controller, and we're going to do CSS, and let's uncheck play here for a moment. And I'm going to pause the video and just open this script up. All right, so I need a couple variables up top. Let me go ahead and pause the video and type those out. All right, we have our speed, in which our enemy is going to chase our player. We have to have some sort of numerical detection range. That means how close we can get to that character. And then when our character gets further enough away, we need a variable to control the how far our character is before our enemy loses interest before it runs from the player. We need to access the rigid body because we're going to be using that to script the player movement. And then we want to know where our player is in the world in order to detect how close it is, how far they are from where we lose interest. So in our start method here, we need to let's go ahead and I made all of these public here, and let's grab our enemy. Here's our enemy prefab, mushroom enemy. Let's grab this character and bring him in the scene. Now what I did is I actually changed his rigid body, his enemy controller here. Actually, let's clean this up a little bit so that he's a clean model. Okay, so all I have here is a rigid body 2D, which will control the character, like when we press play, falling to the earth. On that, I have the rotation frozen. I also have a circle collider 2D, because when the character falls, this makes for much smoother fall off because it's on a circle around our mushroom, and our character is pretty much a circular shape. And so what we want to do is just get the rigid body component first. And we're going to grab this here. And then what I want you to do is every time you do something like this, always double check that your scripts are working correctly, right? So like you type this line, we know at this point, because we've done it a million times, that this gets the rigid body component here. Well, on our mushroom enemy here, let's go ahead and grab that enemy controller CSS script. And you could see here that these are set to 0. We're going to have to add values. This is going to be part of the game design part of what we do, is the speed and all this good stuff. But let's press play. You could see it grab that, which is good. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that all three of our characters here, so let's go back to our PC characters here in the art folder, that all three of these are tagged with player. So if you open this up, sometimes they have it by default, player with a capital P. Otherwise, you can just do add tag, and you could type player in here. And then just make sure that each one of these has the player, they're all tagged as player. because what we want to do is the transform, or the position that we're going to get in that world, is the way we're going to do that is we're just going to say player transform equals game object. And then what we want to do is find the game object with a tag. And that tag we're looking for is player. And remember, we're getting an error here because we're looking for the transform. So we're going to find that game object, and then we're going to grab its transform. Looks like there's an error with this. Find game object with tag, because we're looking for a single game object, not many game objects. And yeah, so just make sure you don't have the S on there. Now let's hit Control S and let's press play here. And you could see with our mushroom enemy here, it's actually not finding Sally. And I think the reason for that is, let's see, spawn point transform, mushroom enemy. Oh, our player isn't really spawned in there yet, because remember when we hit our game manager hasn't persist. So I'm just gonna grab Sally for now and just place her, and then let's select our mushroom enemy just to test this, and you could see it found Sally right away. And all right, so far so good. All right, so next what I want to do is I just want to have a Boolean variable here, and let's go ahead and delete this. What this variable is going to do is it's going to just say yes or no, true or false. Should we be patrolling now, or should our character stop, or should our character be going to a waypoint system? So inside of our update function, we're just going to write this logic out where we're going to really just check. Well, I think we'll just go straight for writing the code out that checks the distance between our player and the character. Now you can do it this way where it's on 2 lines. You can hit enter after it. It's just I did this because I was getting cut off and I wanted to make sure you saw all the code at once. But really, this is just the float value. It's like a number with a decimal point, 1.0, 2.0. And all this is storing is the distance between the enemy player, which is what this script is attached to, and then wherever our player is. And that's all this variable is storing here, is distance to player. And then what we could do is we can create a couple methods here that chase the player. So you can do void chase player. So we need to chase the player. I guess that could be the first thing that we sort of script out. And it's a pretty easy way to check this is we say, okay, if the distance to the player is less than our detection range, then we'll chase this player. All right, so what we have here is we're storing in this float value. Remember, we got 1.0, 2.0. And what we're doing is we're taking, what sign does is it sort of normalizes the whatever number that we get out of here between -1 and 1, so that we're looking at that range. So what we're taking is the X position, which is, remember, here's the X of our mushroom moving around. We're saying, okay, the current X position of our mushroom minus the current position of our character, we're going to store that in direction X. And then remember, rigid body dot velocity is what's actually moving our character. So what we're saying is, okay, we're going to move our character this number value, because remember, it's always updating because we're calling it in chase player, times the chase speed. And then the reason why we do rb.velocity.y is because we don't want it to chase our character upward, like into the air, so on the y-axis. So we just want it to be constrained to just the x-axis. So let's save this and let's go back into our game. And let's say our chase speed is 5, and then our detection range is 10. So now if I jump into this area that's close to it, you can see the characters chasing me off to the side of the mountain. So that's great. The thing is, we definitely want, and let's actually take our camera out a little bit so we can see this more inside the game. But move this down like that. We definitely want our character. Sorry, I'm going to kind of edit this a little bit better. Now, what we'd like is if it's the alternative to this, so I'm just going to highlight this and hit Control D. I think you're going to have to copy and paste it. If the distance to the player is greater than the detection range, we really just want our player to our mushroom character to stop chasing the player. So let's go ahead and create another method below this. All right, so what I did here is notice we have this, it's just really just the opposite. So if the distance to the player is greater than the range, the detection range, remember our detection range is just this number here. I think we set it to like 10 last time. And then we'll set our chase speed to 5. And let's make sure Sally's faster. So yeah, Sally's quicker. So if our distance to the player is greater than the detection range, that means we've gone greater than 10 units away. We're going to stop chasing the player. So the way we stop chasing the player is I just set the velocity, because remember what we're doing with velocity is we're just adding force, or we're pushing that mushroom along. We just set it to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S to save this. I'm going to press play here, and I'm going to let it chase me, and then I'm going to try to get away as fast as I can. Let's see if I get away. Maybe my distance to the player has to be... There we go. So I got away, but I had to kind of kill myself to do it. But you could see that the player stopped. So it's pretty good. I mean, the code in here isn't mind-blowing. It can be a little confusing with using a sine wave here, but I think that's it. I might want to add maybe one more check, and that's a Boolean, and that's to check if we are, you know what, I'll do that when we create the waypoint system. It's just going to check if we're chasing. But for now, that's a pretty good basic enemy controller. And we haven't done lose interest range yet, which we'll do for the waypoint system in the next video, where, you know, where we check to see if we lost interest, then we'll go to a waypoint. And actually, let's just really quickly create a empty object here and just call this patrol points. And then I'm going to hit Control D, and these are my 2 patrol points. And I want to make sure these are both 0 on the Z-axis. And where are these located? Let's see. So let's also give them a little tag like that. So here's for patrol point 1. And then for patrol point 2, we'll have it set like here. Let's give that a tag too. And then let's take both of these and drop them underneath here. And so now whenever we select patrol point, we can see them. And I think that's it for this video. Like I said, in the next one, we'll go ahead and start working on how we can get our character to just move between those 2 points.